Hey, everybody, welcome to Love and Relo, the voice of the relocation industry. I am your host, Ben Cross, with my good friend, Thomas Bailey.
Yeah.
How are you, Thomas?
I'm doing pretty good, man. It's Wednesday. I want to make sure that we're
Make
doing
sure
this right.
your
We're
wire's
doing this
working.
right. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Test. Got you loud and clear. Hey, everybody, thanks so much for joining today. Today's going to be a lot of fun. It's, serious. We're going to talk about race. We're just two dudes talking about race here. Nothing could go wrong, right? No, but we're going to have fun, though, because we're friends, and we just kind of wanted to maybe have a different kind of tone of the conversation, and just kind of maybe answer your questions, maybe the questions that you're afraid to ask. We wrote them down, kind of from both of our points of view. If you're watching this right now, please hit that like button. Throw a little heart out there to Tommy out there, and throw something in the comments there as well. Let me know who you are, where you are, what you're doing. Please put that in there. We're going to take your questions and comments as well. Tim Quirk checking in. Hey, Benny and Tommy from Western New York. Hashtag WNY. Tim, I don't care how many times you post that hashtag. That will never trend. I'm saying.
Yeah.
What do you think, Thomas? Hashtag WNY?
I'm okay on it. Like, if he left it off, I think that everybody would be okay with that. Like, if people wouldn't even notice, I don't think, if you stopped using it. It's one of those things. Like, if you stopped using hashtag Love and Relo, people are like, yo, where's the hashtag? And if he stopped doing the WNY, people would be like, yo, I'm really glad you dropped that. It got weird. And yeah, hashtag blessed for sure.
Hey, Lynn, what's up? Lynn Greenberg, good to see you. Lauren Herring, hello from St. Louis. Lauren, it's good to see you here. Fernando, hey, running hero.
Yo, that's me.
Hashtag running hero.
Yeah, when we talk about race today, we are not talking about running.
We're not talking about the Detroit Free Press Marathon. Janet Turner, hey. Look at this. It's already trending, he says. Wow. Wise. Stacy Huff, hi, Ben and Tommy. Looking forward to your conversation. Elizabeth Soley, hey, it's Elizabeth of Jacob Street in Southern Connecticut. Hashtag SOCT.
Oh, wow.
I think that's Southern Connecticut, or is that Shout Out Connecticut? I don't even know anymore. Rebecca Narhai, glad to join the conversation. Yeah, so yeah, let's just hop into it, man. So why are we talking about this right now? Like, how did this even come up? You want to just kind of set the table for people a little bit?
Yeah, sure. I think that, like, I don't know what story you want me to tell about this part, but
just tell the truth, man.
Ben says some really offensive things to me one day. No, we've luckily had a cool relationship over the years, as everybody knows, but we've had a lot of conversations that were, outside of like the normal work relationship of like a car shipper and a client, So they've gone from all different types of, they covered all type of topics, and lately in the last few months we've had a few different conversations about race in America. And I think that some of our conversations have been really cool, and I've learned some things, and I think that you may have as well. And I think that since that nobody really watches your show, so
we can say whatever we want, right?
It's like it's just the two of us talking. So I figured this would be nice to have a conversation and just really go back and forth and see what we come up with, and see if we're still friends at the end of this.
Yeah, and shout out real quick while I'm thinking about it. The thing that really sparked this in my mind was Brenda Thoney Johnson from Merck and the people at Merck, Minneapolis Employee Relocation Council. I think I got that right. Yeah. They've hosted 2 out of a 3-part series on, I don't even know what was the title of that, Thomas? You did that?
Well, no, it was like diversity and inclusion, but it had a Black Lives Matter focus.
Okay.
And then so the first one was stories, and people could tell their stories about issues or things that they've had happen in their lives, just to kind of like bring everybody up to speed. And then the second one was about it was not about stories, but what's going on now, like where are we right at the moment. And the third one will be about like what's the next steps, like how can we move forward.
And she sent me the date on the third one here. She said the third one is January 26th. If you want to register for that, I recommend it. Yeah. It's January 26th at 2:00 Central Standard Time.
Yep. And I wasn't on the first one, and watched it, and it was very touching, and so many different stories though. Like that's the thing about just race in this country in general, is that there's just so many different stories, some bad, some kind of not so bad, and some great. So it's just it's definitely a dynamic conversation.
Yeah, so today I think, based on the relationship you and I have, I think we're going to ask each other some questions that most people probably aren't comfortable asking other people, just because of our relationship. And I think, first question I want to ask is, why do you think it is that we can have these kinds of candid conversations? Because we've had some long, deep, candid, emotional, funny conversations. Why do you think that we're able to have those conversations?
Well, we built a relationship, a friendship first, in a very open kind of friendship. So, we talked a lot of junk back and forth to each other. So we've said much more hurtful things to each other in jest. And I think that it just makes sense for us to be able to roll into like an actual serious conversation. And I mean, not everybody can say some of the things that we've said to each other, and just be open and honest without having some, defense.
Well, but see, okay, so I'm going to disagree with you for a second.
No.
I think, I think that, yes, I mean, I agree with the whole, we have a strong relationship. There's trust that has been built up over years. I mean, we know each other's families, we're legitimate friends, right?
Yeah.
And at least we used to be. And I think that no, but I think that when people develop that kind of relationship, that's when you can have candid conversations. You can be honest with people, and you can say things, and you can also have fun too. I think that's another thing too, is I think, well, I'm gonna speak from a white person's point of view here.
Sure,
I think
give it a try.
I think that's one of the interesting ideas here too, is you can share a Black perspective, and I can share a white perspective, right? And we can talk about these perspectives. But I think a lot of white people are very afraid to even have this conversation. I think a lot of white people are thinking there's no upside whatsoever to engaging in a conversation about race with a Black person. This cannot end well. I think that's just the warning signs in people's minds, don't do it, don't go there, don't get canceled, don't get fired, don't get alienated by society or punched in the mouth, or some variation of those two outcomes. Is it the same for Black people? Do Black people feel that same level of discomfort talking about race, or is it different?
Talking about race to white people?
Person. Yeah, as a white person, how does that feel to you? The idea of talking about a white person.
Okay, so I think that So I think that there's many different things. Some people would be very comfortable, talking about it. If it's just a tough conversation to be had, because there's implications that you could say the wrong thing to the wrong person as a Black person, and not lose your job, but you could risk certain things. So the same reason why you're hesitant is the same reason why I'm hesitant. It's just from a different angle, And I think that historically, there's not been much room for Black folks to speak up about a lot of things in business, or risk being being perceived as the aggressor or something of that nature.
Well, yeah, because and I'm thinking, when you're saying you're hesitant to talk about race, it's interesting, because I think that the narrative from some white people is Black people love playing the race card, always making it about race, right? Mm-hmm. When in fact, it sounds like, from what you're saying, that's the last thing you want to really be talking about. I mean, besides the fact that here we are.
The race card thing. Because I've said it, as a joke. If they fire me, I'm gonna pull a race card.
Well,
I think that people have used that in wrong ways. People have used everything in the wrong way at some point. But at certain times, we all have to admit that the race card, was pulled for a correct reason, and I just think that not to like pull a race card, but I don't want to walk in like pointing out the fact that I'm I'm already black. So I mean, you already see that that's the case. So there's no point in me like coming into a room and saying like, hey guys, let's talk about it. Like,
hey, let's talk about how black I am. Like nobody wants to do that. Nobody wants to walk in a room.
Right. My goal is to get a job, keep it, and not purposely put things or remind people. It's kind of weird. Like it sounds stupid for me to say that I'm reminding someone.
Yeah. Do you feel like you're flying under the radar? Like you're trying to like fly under the radar, like not make waves, chill out, like don't.
Yeah, I think that
don't stick out.
Right, and by the way, like I'm not speaking for everyone, either. Like, so if you're black and you're watching this and like I embarrass you, I'm sorry. But
you're not the official spokesperson for black people everywhere.
Not that. Like this is just from my like point of view or standpoint.
Yeah, same thing about white people. Sorry.
Oh no, he's speaking for everyone. No, this is your show. You're speaking for everyone.
But don't we get into that problem though too, where we think like we say black people, white people, like we talk about like there's monolithic, like all white people think like Ben represents all white people, Thomas represents all black. Like obviously that's like that's as untrue for black people as it is for white people. So no matter what you are, just know that if you don't think it's true for what you look like, it's not true for what they look like either. Right.
And then I mean we're just pontificating here, and none of this may be real. But but I just feel like like you don't want to come like as from my family in Britain coming up was not necessarily like, and I don't want to have people think like, oh everybody black thinks like the world's out to get them, but I'm 36, and so I mean it's not like I was born in the 60s or before that, obviously, but I was raised by people that have gone through and seen a lot of different things, so their standpoint is like maybe not like just don't like not don't make waves on purpose, really, like do the best job that you can, be everything you are except for like they didn't say don't be your full authentic self, but in a way you can't really be. I mean, maybe nowadays, like it may be now, like for like our kids generation, like because I think that some of the barriers that maybe you and I may deal with, hopefully our kids won't, just because of the way social media, I was gonna say bring people together, but we've just seen that like social media in the news and all that can tear us apart.
It polarizes us too. But going back to what's interesting is I'm hearing you talking about like not making waves and kind of not being noticed for the wrong reasons, maybe, or not being conspicuously your race, your culture, whatever. It's so interesting to me because I hear the same thing from women, who don't feel like they can be their full selves or bring their full all their themselves to work, because they're going to be judged to be a certain type of way, or they're not as active in classrooms. It starts as an early age, right, where they don't feel like they can, they don't raise their hand as much, or they don't apply to as many jobs, because there's just almost like this systemic fear that's been put there, right, to kind of stay in a place. Right, to stay in your place, right? And it's interesting when I hear you say that, and it just clicked to me. But I think that's the narrative of I'm gonna use the word oppression. I think that's the narrative of oppression that's described by all minorities.
I mean, it's a system. Like it's a way, it's a caste system. It's a way that things are supposed to be done. And if you're in a play, like everybody should check out the book Caste. It's Caste. It's a great book. It just talks about the caste system in America and compares it to India, which has like one of the oldest caste systems, and theirs is based on it's not based on color. It's based on what your position in life, your economic position in life, or where you're born. So if your father's a carpenter, like go start Twitter, but so I mean it's a caste system. So if you're supposed to be playing a role and you get out of character, like if you're in the play and all of a sudden you just jump in to bend Cross's lines, it sounds silly to say, but that's when things start to that's where people are worried, like I don't want to come to work, be my full authentic self, because that doesn't play into the caste system that we are in. So you see people that come as themselves and are out, whether it's men, it's all different. Obviously you said all different minorities, but coming from a black standpoint, it's you just have to be careful not to, or you just have to be careful not to, like my hair, like perfect example. We'll talk about my hair, right? And I've grown my hair in different ways, like throughout my life, and you probably have never seen that before. Like, but I only did it between like conferences, not because like obviously you want to be professional and all that good stuff, but I just didn't want like the negative attention or like someone.
Your hair is conspicuously black right now.
Yeah, and so I can't. I could, and I'm not saying that I shouldn't have, but the point is, I felt nervous about either number one, I had already been accepted, so I didn't want to lose that, right? And then also, I didn't want to make anybody feel like, oh, well, what's up with Thomas? Like, did you see, like, and I don't think, everybody has to worry about their appearance, obviously, right? But some of the deeper reasons why I didn't do this in the past was because of, I just want to lose my status in this thing.
So what made you change your mind?
Yo, okay. It's like, I think that, like, I just think that I'm just with all that's been going on lately, with the pandemic, and then following like the resurgence, well, I mean, it never went anywhere, but Black Lives Matter and George Floyd and all the things that just kind of reminded me of like, there's no glory in like fitting in to a thing that makes you feel like you don't fit in. You need to be who you are, and figure out a way or a place to be that, and if the moving industry isn't that for me, then I guess I just can't be here,
Right.
But I like, think, what do we tell our kids,
But
like,
I think, okay, I'm sorry.
No, sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, I think early on, like because I've known you since we basically kind of both got into this business, and on the one hand, you might say, if you would have grown your hair like that or whatever, or rock the hoodie with the jacket style, instead of the collar shirt with the jacket style, you could make an argument that you would have not fit in and got as much traction. But I think there's a lot to be said for showing more of your authentic self, because it gives people more to grab onto, like figuratively speaking. Like it gives people more to latch onto the more they know about you, if you will.
More to connect. Yeah, more to connect to.
Because I think a lot of us come to work. I mean, this is white people too. I mean, maybe not as much, but still, let's be honest. We all put on the costume. We all put on the mask. We all come to work, and we try to be the person that we think other people think we need to be. And so I think we all conform a lot. I mean, let's be honest. Like, we don't wear this around the house, right? You know what I mean? So. Right. And of course, this whole Zoom environment is getting really interesting, because now we're seeing people in their house and what they're actually wearing, But I think a lesson in this too for anybody, I mean, just even outside of race, is be your authentic self and give people something to latch onto, and make yourself distinguished. But along that same lines, I'm going to flip this around. Do you think there's advantages to being Black? You didn't expect that question, did you?
I think, I think that if done correctly,
if applied properly,
this ointment should work. No, I think that.
What is the proper application of Blackness, Thomas?
Blackness. So I think that there is. I mean, because there's benefits to being all things, right? Mm-hmm. And if you can figure out what those things are in your situation, or whatever that may be, like, there's definitely a benefit to being Black. Like when I'm in, when I'm just rolling through the old hood or whatever, I don't have to worry about anything, right? But then also, like, from a business standpoint, I mean, I gotta just be honest. Like, we're friends, right? Like, I stand out, like, in in a lot of the conferences and things like that, and so do some of the people that I know that are also Black in this industry. So at some point, like, if like I said, if you do it correctly, and it's like and you just carry yourself in a way that, like, just like you want to carry yourself well as any person that you are, right? But if I do that well, I think that like there's some benefit to having a different attention, I guess, you know, like somebody joked like, hey man, you should do, because like you were wearing bow ties for a while, and I'm like, oh, that's pretty dope. Like, and then I grabbed the bow tie thing, and then I like lost it real quick because it's just too much. I was like,
It's a lot.
I was in the hotel room like sweating, looking in the mirror, looking at YouTube videos, trying to figure this thing out. But like,
well, you wear a bow tie and you look like you should be selling bean pies. I wear a bow tie and I look like I should be pulling malted milkshakes at the corner at the soda fountain. You know what I mean? I got like this fat ice cream server look going on when I start wearing a bow tie.
You did well, but like the thing, and then like I decided to just get rid of that, and then someone's like, oh man, like that was cool, like that was your thing or whatever, and I joked like, dude, I'm already the thing. I'm already like one of 3 black people.
I don't need another thing.
I don't need another. Like, oh,
says
yeah,
the guy with the pink flower on his lapel right now.
Hey, you know, like, hey man, this is for breast cancer. Breast cancer all year, you know. So
are you counting your blackness as one of your 30 pieces of flair? Is that what you're trying to say?
Of course, bro. Like that's what you have
well, to okay. So I agree. I think listen, it's an obvious weakness, right? Because there's so much white privilege that comes. There's so much.
Yeah, like we talk about white privilege.
Let's get into that. Okay, before we get into that, let's shout out people that used to be here watching this show here. Charles Beatty.
They jumped and they left.
Like, oh, it's about this. What's up, Charles Beatty? Jack Jampel. What up, Jack? Love to hear your questions. Jack, Charles, Miriam. Miriam's like, sweet sales greetings to all. Oh, bad timing, serious topic. Yeah, sorry, y'all. Janet says, what are the things you've said to each other? Oh gosh, Janet, you really trying to get us fired and locked up. Dan says, Janet turned high. You may not want to hear that answer. Like the time my dad, remember the time my dad said that thing? That was funny.
Oh yeah, that was funny. I was like, yo, no, I'm here as a guest.
Oh, we shouldn't even say that. It's so embarrassing. My dad's gonna be here in 2 days. He's gonna like be mad at me. Drew Phillips, happy holidays, gentlemen. 2 guys, regardless of color, who have taught me a ton. Love you, boys. Love you too, Drew.
I love you, Drew.
Let's see here. Val, hey guys. Yep, Ben, I'm regular now. Hi from Val from Deluxe Suites. What up, Val? Hey, don't forget, quick plug, DRRC Christmas party is tonight. I don't think it's too late to register. I will be hosting that with Tessa Boone from Ford after this at 5:30 Eastern. Drew Phillips, I love Thomas's hair.
Hey, what up?
Does that make you feel weird when people white people say I love your hair?
Yeah. No, I mean,
no, seriously, does it though?
Like I think like if Drew says it, I think I like it. It's cool.
You think you like it? It's because
I know Drew. Like if you said it, like yeah, like but like when like some, I mean, I don't know, man. I think that it's like a thing. Like I don't know. Dude.
Hair is a weird thing for especially for black people. But I don't like when anybody comments on my appearance at all. Which is funny. No, I'm serious. Even though I put a lot of effort into it and I like to look nice and everything, like I got a mirror. Like I know I look nice. Like I don't like to be. I don't like. Yeah, no. Okay, I shall say. I know I look. But I don't need. I don't like to be made. Like one time I was sitting in a meeting, and this young lady I work with, she's like, "Oh, Ben, you smell really good," and I'm like that's enough. I've had enough of that. Like I don't need any commentary on anything about my physical person. That's
yeah. No, I just think that like I mean that's the thing. Like some of this is just a touchy topic. You know, like I mean, because some of these things have like such a history, though.
There's a lot of history.
So it's like and I know when you brought up like the when women or other minorities and things come into the office and they want to act certain ways because they don't want to be perceived or whatever, and those things come from a history too. But I just think that sometimes like this whole black and white thing has such a crazy, deep history that like. I know that some people mean it in whatever way possible, and they mean it in the best way and with all love. But it's like sometimes it's taken like if I was a white dude and came, you would just be like, "Yo, hey, what's up, Tom?"
Yeah,
I don't know. Like, I mean,
I don't know either because I get comments on my hair too, right? And I'm like, okay,
but cool. Your hair, but I mean,
your hair looks good too. Like your hair looks really good.
This just happens, bro.
So
and
does
yours
this.
like
You don't think I just roll out like this?
You woke up like this,
You don't think I
Beyonce?
just sleep right on that part, just like that? You know,
Is that what you do? You sleep on the
I
part so it
sleep on the
stays?
part. Yeah, yeah.
Like you part it
It's
before you
actually
go
a
to
cow
sleep?
lick right here. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
All right, man.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, I do appreciate it, and I appreciate the thought that's like, you know, but at some point, sometimes it's like, okay, like maybe not right here. Don't, like maybe text
Maybe
me
not
later,
in
like, bro,
public. Like text me
like,
later, meet me in the room. You can
bro,
talk about my hair.
maybe not in the room, but
Janitor
maybe
says I just put some purple in my hair.
I didn't see that earlier.
Janet, you want to show us the purple in your hair?
Are we doing this?
No, she's like, no. So
No.
she's like, no, I don't. Tim Hellenthal, really proud of you two for having this conversation. Bravo. I'd also recommend the book Whistling Vivaldi by Demario Clark.
Yeah, I think I checked that out, but it was like a couple years ago. And
Tim with like the highbrow comment here.
Tim is the man, bro.
Tim's like closet smart. I love you, Tim. Seriously, if you're still watching, Tim, I love you, man. Hosea, what's up? Ben Thomas. Okay, Mark, my neighbor. So you know where to find Mark. Let's see what Mark has to say. In an attempt to level the playing field for folks of color and creed, are we not scared of being equal? For example, Asian Engineers Club, Black Engineers Society. But what would be said if there were a named White Engineer Society? Okay, I'll take this one. White Engineer Society is called the Engineer Society.
It's literally like every society until like last year.
The White American Movie and Storage Association is called the American Movie and Storage Association.
Yes,
okay?
It is, and I
do
think,
we not know this though? Like, I'm sorry. No, can I? Let me just.
Sorry,
the only reason there is an Asian Engineers Club is to make space in the world for the Asian engineers of the world or the Black engineers of the world to counterbalance the enormous white space that exists in the world today. And the fact that we don't see. White people can't see white spaces because we just think of them as spaces. And when I'm talking about space, I mean workplaces, associations, businesses, client dinners, our life, our entire life, everywhere we go that is a non-public place, we are surrounded by people that look like us. And yes, there are people that are going to tell me, no, I got a Black friend sometimes that comes over, and I'm going to tell you that's the exception that proves the rule. Like, we don't think about it, but we are in white spaces, and you will think about it if you go down to Southfield and you choose to go check out the Popeye's chicken sandwich at Southfield instead of the one that's in West Bloomfield. You will know what it's like to be in a white space because you will no longer be in a white space. You will be the only white person in that restaurant. And when you are the only white person in that restaurant, you will know how every single Black person feels every single day of their life. That's my take on that. Thomas, what is your take on that?
At work, you talking about Popeyes.
I'm talking about at work. I'm talking about at a client event. I'm talking about at the conference you go to.
And another thing too, like just in that moment, in that vein where you're saying, like, we walk into, like, say at a client event or something, and it's like, I feel as if I often like have this feeling where I need to represent like every Black person, at that moment. Like, I can't fumble, because I feel like I'm letting down someone else that doesn't even know me, because because there's so many, prejudices and things like that like I can't prove it right. Like, I have to go over and above to try to make sure that, not even just on delivery, because like obviously, like, I'm at a client event, I want the business, so that's one thing, but just on a deeper level, it's deeper than rap, like, and then one quick thing I want to throw in there. Do you feel, when I'm saying, if you go to Detroit right now, like, forget Southfield, let's go a little deeper. You're in Detroit, and it's just like in the middle of like West Side or whatever, and you walk in like a Coney Island, and it's just all Black folks. Do you feel uncomfortable and like borderline, like, I'm not saying scared, like you want to walk out, but like nervous and scared?
I appreciate this question so much. I feel more uncomfortable than if I walked into a Coney Island and it was all white people.
Okay.
I don't feel what I would label as uncomfortable, but I feel aware. I feel very aware of the fact that I'm the only white person. I feel very aware and kind of almost marvel at the fact that there's a restaurant full of Black folks, and this is so abnormal in my day-to-day life that I almost take it in, to be honest, to be like, huh, this is interesting because like, and how are the interactions different, right? I mean, because I presume that people, frankly, are acting more normal. I like to study people. I like to observe people, right? And so, if how do Black people act in a room full of Black people versus how do Black people act in a room full of white people, right?
Mm-hmm.
Talking about before, like having to always be conscious of like our actions when we're in spaces of a different race, right? And I find it fascinating. I think I'm like super well equipped to be in those situations, but yes, I'm very much aware of that fact, and I can't imagine how much more aware someone who doesn't have my experiences would be in a situation like that. I feel like those situations, I enjoy those situations. I relish those opportunities, frankly.
But I mean, that makes you different though too, because these are all assumptions, but like there's so many people wouldn't even go to a place like that because of like out of fear, right? And that's what I was trying to get to. And I don't understand. Like, I mean, I do understand it because there's been media and just like the climate that we're in, and they perpetuate this thing that like Black people are so dangerous. Like Black people in their element are so dangerous and scary people. When in reality, like you're more safe than anybody else. And if you get robbed, you're gonna get robbed by anybody. You can get robbed in your own community. Obviously, we see that in the best neighborhoods, right? And but when has there been like some random thing where Black people were just running around terrorizing white folks? Never.
Well,
Some
people will say the Black Lives Matter movement caused riots, which did just that. I would not say that, but some people would say that, and some media have portrayed that as being the case. I don't want to go down that path yet. I do want to talk about Black Lives Matter, and I do want to talk about these perceptions, but I want to stay on Mark's comment because there's another aspect to this comment which I think is important. And Mark, you're a friend of mine, and I truly appreciate you engaging here.
And this is a good question. This is a good question.
These are great questions. This is a great question. And the other thing I would say is the premise of your question is about creating equality. And let me just say right off top, there is no such thing as equality. We're all different. We all have strengths. We all have weaknesses. If the job is changing a light bulb, I am more qualified than Thomas. If the job is running a marathon, Thomas is more qualified than me. Okay, because we just have innate talents. All right, that was a height joke, Tommy. Did you catch that one?
Yeah.
Because I could like stand on my toes. You'd have to get a ladder. Anyway, point is, it's not about equality. It's about equal access to opportunity. That I want to get that across, at least in my view, and I want to hear your thoughts, Thomas. What are your thoughts on that? Is it about equality or is it about opportunity?
I mean, isn't it maybe I'm not smart enough. I feel like it's the same thing. We can't have equality without opportunity, and you don't get the opportunity if it's not an equal thing.
Well, here's where I'm going with this. Here's where I'm going, and here's where I think the logic has not made sense to white people before. The logic in white people's minds is, why am I giving things to other people who haven't earned them? Okay, that's what their thought is, right? So why am I giving equal reward to people who haven't earned them, right? And this is where the whole notion of welfare queens and all this kind of like welfare society narrative comes from, right? I'm giving, we as a society, as hardworking white folks, are giving, the fruits of our labor to like this welfare society, right? Who hasn't earned it. And that's what I think the notion of equality is, that people hate, or that some white people hate and demonize. And there's economic arguments for why minimum incomes make sense from a societal standpoint, but we're not going to get into that. But what I'm talking about is equality of opportunity, in that when you're born to the United States, people should have the same access to education. They should have the same access to rights. They should have the same access to public services. They should have the same outcomes coming out of the womb. They should have the same expectation of outcomes, generally speaking, regardless of race or religion or whatever, sexual orientation, etc.
Yeah.
And that we do not see in this country. Now, yes, there's choices that are made between the womb and the tomb, right?
Yeah.
But I don't think coming out the womb we're all on equal footing. And that's why I think the difference is opportunity and not equality.
And like when I hear stuff like this, I mean I totally, like, on an intellectual level, like throw the history away, like present moment, I understand that statement, right? But it's you can't talk about today and the way things are right now without talking about the history, that precedes us. Like, you just can't, because I mean, just like the wealth gap in the country isn't just because, I mean, it's not just because a bunch of black folks just made a bunch of bad decisions in the 90s. It's because sorry for the voice. But it's because
I like the voice. The voices are fun. We gotta punch it up a little bit. It's getting heavy for some people here.
Right. So, but it's not about that. It's the wealth gap was started much, so long ago. Like, let's just say, like, from in the 30s to the 60s, the fact that, like, black people couldn't even buy a house, like, unless it was only in, like, this area, like, far away from, redlining straight up. And it wasn't even like, oh, this is a perceived thing. So if you're alive right now in America and your parents were in America and they were, adults in the 30s through 60s and bought some things, that by itself increases your family's, value and net worth and wealth. Like, when white people, and I'm not saying this is like, Mark's fault, but just to say, like, this, to jump to now, like, well, what about this? Or what about that? But what about the fact that, like, the start was you guys started so much longer ago than we did, and it wasn't even we were just sitting still. It was because you're not allowed.
Here's the flaw in that argument, and the thing that white people would say, right? Slavery was a long time ago, is what white people would say. They say, I mean, it's been 170 years. What's up? There's Asian families that are first generation Asian or second generation Hispanic that come to this country and they're crushing it. Doctors, lawyers, second generation Harvard graduate. These are the arguments I hear around the white water cooler. Okay, these are the arguments I hear, right? And I think it's important, by the way, that we acknowledge that these conversations are being had, right? Because black people are like thinking these conversations are being had, and white people are like, what are you talking about? Nobody says anything like that. No, these are the conversations that are being had. Okay, so let's just say it, right? Let's just put it out there. And I think that one of the fallacies that exists is the idea that it is linear, right? So Reconstruction happens, right? After the Civil War is over, Emancipation Proclamation, black folks are freed, still broke, but free. Okay. And the government's supposed to give them 40 acres and a mule as reparations to get them started. Right. And then they could have a farm and then they could be, contributing members to, U.S. citizens. Right. Mm-hmm. Well, 40 acres and a mule did not happen. Okay. And so then the sharecropping happened, and then black towns were formed, and then black commerce and black business was formed. And actually black folks were doing all right. Yeah. Doing okay. Coming up, right? And then the Klan started riding, right? Started breaking things up, and then property was being taken back. And so it hasn't necessarily been like a straight line of progress, and here we are. It's gone like this and like this and like this. And I think that, and then you got the 80s crack epidemic in urban centers. I mean, just things like this have happened. Tuskegee experiment. Things have happened throughout the history of Black Americans that it's not a linear thing.
And it's not I love it. But it's not self-imposed either, like it wasn't you go back to like Reconstruction, it lasted for 11 years, and it wasn't like even if the Klan just came in and just decided that they was going to mess with people, it wasn't even just that. It was the government decided 11 years into it that they decided they would pull out because they were running for president. Somebody was running for president, and they decided in order to win, they had to just pull out and let everything just go to say, hey guys, I know we were trying to help you, and keep these people away from you and let you guys do your thing, but we can't do that anymore because of political reasons. And then it goes downhill from there. And all of these things aren't just like, like just failures by Black folks to have initiative, like that's like the thing.
Yeah. I hear this is great. We have some great questions and comments coming in. I want to get to all of these. Nicole's checking in. What's up, Nicole? Elizabeth's checking in. Sounds good. I think Elizabeth's going to be on the show tomorrow, I think. We love Thomas's hair. Great. Zach, good afternoon. Ben and Thomas, good to see you. Thomas, miss you, sir. Zach, did you shorten your name? Glenn, what's up, Lynn? Is Lynn doing stand-up in this picture, by the way? Doesn't it look like he's doing a set right now?
Yeah, he's doing a little bit.
That's awesome. That's what's up. Hosea Thomas, when you're at a conference, do you feel sometimes you can be yourself? I do, as I'm extra conscious of what I say and how I look. Your thoughts? Do you feel sometimes you can, or maybe you meant can't be yourself?
Can't, probably.
Hosea?
You probably meant can't.
Do you want to answer that question?
Yeah, I mean, I think we talked about a little bit earlier too. Like, yeah, I feel like it's just, yeah, I feel like I can't be myself at times. Like now I feel more comfortable. And I mean, it took a long time to get there. And I think, to be honest, like, I mean, everybody has to go through that moment where they feel like they need to get to a certain point before they can feel like, comfortable. But I think that like the hesitation that I feel, or Hosea may feel, or whoever may feel about being themselves, that fear is coming from a different place. It's not just because like, oh, I don't think they're gonna like my I'm gonna dye my hair blonde because I don't think that they like redheads or something like that. It's not like
Janet literally just did this. She dyed her hair purple.
Yeah, and it's not about it's more it's a deeper level, and I'm kind of worked. I'm like a little excited right now. So.
All right, we got another question here, Janet. I've done that at a church, all Black church. Is that okay to say, all Black church?
Yeah, I mean, it was all Black people.
It
was all Black people.
Yeah. So is it cool if white people say Black people? Is that okay?
I think I like Black. I mean, I just think that like some people say Black different than other people, and it kind of
Black is back.
Harder. Yeah.
I think okay. Great point. Right. It's like what is the spirit of what you're trying to say? Right.
I guess.
Like, what is behind it? Is it coming from a place of love? Is it coming from a place of seeking to understand people? Is it coming from a place of empathy and compassion, or is it coming from Black people don't do this, or Black people always do? Like, is it coming from a place of disparagement? You know what I mean? So I think if it's coming from a place of love, I think that's almost always the answer. I think. Yeah. But people are sensitive right now, Thomas. I mean, white people are really sensitive. I think there's a lot of white people that want to learn and want to engage, and their curiosity is piqued right now. And I think we have to take advantage of this time right now that people are actually like listening and thinking and having an appetite for this kind of stuff. But at the same time, like, people are scared. White people are scared right now. Like, I'm just, you don't care.
Of what?
Of what? I don't know what. I don't know. You know what we're scared? No, you know what we're scared of? You know what we're scared of? We're scared of white solidarity, of breaking white solidarity. We're scared of being the only white person in the room who says, you know what, I'm not cool with that joke, or I'm not cool with you doing that, or we're scared of not being accepted.
Yeah.
It's like I know of what are white people scared of? I think that's a fair question from a Black person, right? It's like, what are white people scared of? Like, y'all are the ones with the power. Y'all are the ones, whatever. But there's a lot of fear and there's a lot of vulnerability. And actually, I'm actually going to get to a comment here from Mark also. Oh, these are some good questions coming out. I'm so excited about these questions.
Drop a question, bro.
I'm trying, bro. Okay, I'm doing a lot of things right now. Okay.
Have you done this before?
No, I'm trying to read. I'm trying to process. I'm trying to create a narrative. Like, you're just sitting there looking pretty. I'm over here I'm doing double duty over here. I'm trying not to get canceled. I got a lot of things going on. Okay, Thomas, I'm scared. All right. Mark says, how can as a white guy get a promotion if the company desires more women in management and not necessarily equal opportunity for qualifications? This is a legitimate fear of white men. You and I have a friend, right?
Mm-hmm.
You and I have a friend
who
believes that the
Like
white
opposition.
male is the most discriminated against, I think was his term.
Yeah.
You know, I know actually more than one white person. We only just know one together, but I know more than white guy that feels this way, right?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people think it's I think a lot of people think it's kind of a ridiculous stance, but be honest with you, a lot of people feel this way, right? And I think can I answer this?
I would like for you to answer this question. Also,
I feel like this is up my alley kind of question. Okay.
Sure. Go ahead, white guy.
So what I think was happening right now is I think white folks are feeling the rug of white privilege being pulled out from underneath them. I think right now, white males are feeling the curtain being pulled back on their white male privilege.
It's like dominant.
And it's cold. It's cold and it's cold and chilly and rainy out there. And the curtain's being pulled back and we're like, oh my God, why is it so cold to me? And it's like, that's the way the world feels to everybody. Like everybody's out there trying to get a promotion and they've been a woman their whole life. Everybody's out there trying to get a promotion and they've been a black person their whole life. And like, welcome to the world. Welcome to the real world. It's like, this is how it is. We're all trying to get a promotion. Oh, by the way, there's fewer jobs at the top because technology and things like this are happening, COVID, whatever. And people have worked their entire lives, 30, 40 years. And there's just not that job at the top for the white male that used to be there. Mm-hmm. Because now we got to share the space. Now we're sharing the space more and more. And let me just be honest. Let me just be upfront with my white male brothers out there. We still ain't sharing enough. So it's going to get colder before it gets warmer. But I think it's going to make us a better society. That's my take, Tom.
And I mean, and then that's assuming though that like, I mean, okay. So if I get a promotion over you, Ben, and
that'd be just ridiculous, but go ahead. Let's continue this thought exercise.
And I don't have like half of what you've done, you know, for this company. Like literally on paper.
I'd be legit pissed off.
But I don't think, you know, and that's not right though. Like, I mean, I don't think anybody's saying, yo, if dude just walked in, he's a black dude, give him the presidency, you know?
That just don't happen. I'm sorry. Right, that just doesn't happen. Like that's like not a real world example right there.
No, but that's what I mean, okay, fine. Well, it's if someone isn't qualified, they shouldn't get the job. I mean, I just don't think that.
Right.
I don't think that any of these policies for diversity and inclusion are like written in there. Like if they're black or a woman, give them the job. It's about. I think the diversity and inclusion thing is about doing some research to open that pool or open that option or create more diversity in the pool of selecting for that position, you know. And if you guys are head to head, and I mean, who's told any of you, hey, you were white, I didn't give you the job? That's not even a thing. That's just an assumption, you know. Like, who is it? Please tell me if there's somebody out there that was like literally like, hey, I didn't give you that raise or that promotion because you're white, bro. Sorry, go back to your office.
Yeah, I don't hear specifics used. Honestly, whenever I hear this argument, I hear the women are coming, the blacks are coming. I don't actually hear like, hey, you know, Tommy got this job and Tommy sucks and he's not as good as me and here's why. I never hear like specifics.
I mean, and it may happen, right? But we know for sure that it's happened the other way around. And we know for sure that like it was written on paper and even like legal, you know, like, so it's not, we're not asking for that, and no one's saying that either. So I think it's an assumption too to say like, oh well, I didn't get that job because there was a woman that, you know, walked in right next to me, or this black guy walked in. What if the black guy was more qualified, or what if the woman was more qualified, or what if you all three of you were the same and they just liked Thomas better?
And here's the other thing to Mark's question, right? How can a white guy get a promotion if the company desires more women in management, not necessarily equal opportunity for qualification? And they're not desiring more women. They're desiring a proportionate amount of women. So if women make up 51% of the United States population, shouldn't it stand to reason that roughly 50% of the managers in a company are women? If women make up 50% of your clientele base, doesn't it stand to reason that 50% of your Salesforce and your customer, you know, facing and your operation should be women? Like that's the thing that understand. I mean, there's even prominent, athletic brands and things like that out there that's been pointed out where their whole board is white, except for the chief diversity officer, even though their clientele,
It's 80% black.
Is black, right?
Yeah,
and all the
I
faces of their company are black, but the people controlling and making decisions are not.
Yeah, and I think that and often companies fail because not fail, but have moments of failure, because the people making the decisions don't represent the people that they're just not connected to their buyers. These comments are wild, bro.
These comments are so wild right here.
I'm trying not to look at them because.
Okay. Oh man. Oh, this is great. Okay, this is great. We all know black man jokes. Tell us a white man joke. White people can't dance. It's funny. It's true.
I mean, I like watching it.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I mean, I feel like we started off the show with some white jokes. Anyway, here's a question for you. This is great. People are so salty. This is great.
Salty.
Jeff Nadeau, aren't we all just children of God? Why does color matter at all?
I mean, because it does. Like, this is not even to Jeff or anybody. I just don't understand. Like, I'm not even complaining. Like, I just don't understand. Like, why?
Don't backpedal now, bro.
No. I'm just saying. I just don't understand why people act like this isn't a thing. Like, that's the thing. Like, that's the problem.
Because it's not a thing to white people because we don't feel it. No,
but it though. Like, you have to know. Like, I just don't think that, like, you decide to put it off. You decide to you have the privilege to say, like, I don't want to think about that. That's not my issue. Like, that's a choice that you choose to do that. Like, I can't choose whether I don't in this dynamic, I don't get to choose whether race is a race or we're all God's people or not. You do. Like, in the history of this country, I don't have that choice. Maybe now we do, but the point is, we are where we are. Like, this, if you look at America as a company, like a how many ever year old company, like, the company was built by I'm losing.
It's okay, man.
It's okay, bro. Hold on.
Yeah, he's wilding now. He's like, I'm done with this interview.
I'm done. Let's just be honest. Race is a thing in this country. It always has been. And I believe it always will be. And the only thing that we can do is address, be real that it is a thing, and it doesn't mean that that you, Ben Cross, are worth less, and you're gonna lose your position because of anything. Let's just admit the fact that it is what it is. Like, it's a real thing, and we all know it. And let's just move from there. The reason why this continues, like, and persists is because there's so many people that are just out here and acting like it's not a thing, and like we're all God's children and everything. And it just hasn't been the case. I just don't understand.
So yeah, Jeff, we are all children of God,
and I do believe that we're all children of God, and I do believe that all matter.
This is basically like a really cute argument to me that people make when they're trying to just undermine. Like this is Black Lives Matter, right? This is the argument. This is the all lives matter argument, right? And
they do.
Yeah, all lives matter, but Black Lives Matter too, and Black lives historically haven't mattered, right? And that's what we're trying to say. So why does color matter at all? It matters because, frankly, and here's the other thing.
I didn't make it matter.
And this is also the I don't see color argument as well. The I don't see color argument, and I say, well, how did you get to work then if you didn't stop at the stop sign? If you didn't stop at the stoplight, right? How do you know the difference between a green light and a red light? Like, we all see color. We all, I picked out this blue suit because I knew it was going to match Tommy's blue suit. Like, every day we see color, right? I know Tommy's black. I know I'm white. I like to think that I understand what that means. It means that when I walk out of my house every day, I'm at an advantage just because my white skin holds more value in this society. To be completely honest with you, it means that I'm going to be given the benefit of the doubt, and Thomas is not going to be given the benefit of the doubt. That's what it means. Whether it's a traffic stop, whether it means walking in, whether if we're both wearing a hoodie and we both walk into the CVS, that's what it means. Mm-hmm. Just to be honest with you, that's what it means. And so we can admit that, and that. So we can admit that we can't move forward as a society.
Yeah, and I think, like, that's the part about moving forward is at least admitting where you are and how you got to this point. Like you just have to. Unfortunately, in this whole grand scheme of things in society, we don't have like a Siri that can just guide us from this point to where we need to go. Like we have to realize where we got. We can take a couple steps backwards and figure out how to undo some of the things that were done. And until we can admit that, like, that it's just racism is a thing. And I think the word racism has taken a turn for the worst. Because
racism is taking a turn for the worst.
Because I think the reason why this is going to continue is because the word racism doesn't actually. It's like if somebody says like something was racist, or even it says something about racism around you, you're just saying, "Oh, I'm not racist because I don't hate and I don't like go harm people because of whatever." Like racism at this point in this country almost has a face. Like if there's a white person that comes to you and says, think of a racist person, you kind of paint this picture of someone in your head, and you think that they, have, go shoot people randomly or just hate all black folks. Racism is a thing in a system. It's not saying that, you're a racist so you hate black people. It's deeper than that. Like, so that's what I'm saying. Like, so if once people say I'm racist, oh, I'm not racist because I don't hate anybody. I know a couple black friends. And then they exit, but then they exit out of the conversation. That's what I'm saying. Like once you just say, "Oh, I'm not racist because I don't hate people," stamp, I'm out. I'm walking away.
But it's about being an anti-racist, right?
It's about seeing things and knowing and just being aware. Like you just have to be aware of where we are. Like if you're not, then you're part of the problem.
Right. We're not talking about burning crosses anymore. We're talking about
that's the picture. That's the picture.
We're talking about
something about racist. Oh, I'm not racist.
Stand. Yeah. It's one of those things you got to be a part of the solution, not part of the problem. Rachel Fisher Lyons, color matters because white people chose to make it matter when they chose to colonize and enslave people of color. That's true. Color has been used against people of color for so long. I mean, systemic racism looks different for sure. Elena Anderson DeLay, Jeff Nadeau, the way we move forward is to truly listen and see who we are and have empathy regarding our journey. The way we move forward is to continue to have these courageous conversations, truly listen and denying my hurt denies my humanity. Yeah, and I just want to applaud. Like, there's people like there's obviously comments I don't agree with necessarily, but I do appreciate people's willingness to engage. I think that in the past we haven't said these things necessarily out loud to one another, and I think we have to if we're going to actually move forward. I know all these people in these comments, and I consider them all friends, which is something I've also been working through too. It's like, okay, but I think I'm just really happy that people are engaging on this topic. I was really nervous that people wouldn't have anything to say and they would just like sit back, watch, tune out, but people are really in it, and I appreciate that so much.
And I think that progress gets made in having conversations like this, obviously, but I think that it's also almost more important to have these conversations in private, though, like with your friends and your family, because that's where a lot of this stuff just continued to roll, because people said that they weren't racist or whatever back in the day, but then they'd go home and say all these crazy things behind closed doors that just continued this thinking and then just kept rolling. So when you're with all your white friends,
we need to answer some of these questions, Thomas. Okay,
some
of these are just really good questions. Mark says, "Are blacks as racist as whites?"
Yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, but does it matter? Like, does it matter though? Like at this point, what is me being racist gonna do to anybody else? Like, and it doesn't, like me not liking white folks only hurts me and my family. You not liking black folks, it's been that way. So you can. I'm not saying you, but like. It doesn't change anything. Like, if the minority hates the majority or whatever you want to call it, it does nothing. It doesn't even matter. The point is, it is the way it is. So to ask questions that well, what about this or what about that? Let's just talk about where we really are. Like what really happened. How do we really get here? And then take steps. Like, I just don't understand the questions. Like, well, what about it rained yesterday though? Like, what do you mean?
So I think when it comes to like so there's systemic racism, and then there's like that old school burn across racism. Okay. I think in terms of that old school burn across racism, I think blacks and whites are probably similar. I think there's a fair amount of both of that old school, right?
Oh,
That I just hate looking at you, kind of racism, you know. And then like that you can't date my daughter, racism. Okay, I think there's about the same amount of that. Okay, but on the systemic, you can't hold a candle to it. Like it's not even because to your point about the majority and the minority, right? It's like when the majority sets the rules, their racism matters 100 times more. You know, so yeah, it matters. Yeah, okay. Well, hey, we answered. I hope I gave you an answer you could use, Mark, because I didn't. I ain't shy. Tim Hellenthal, there was over bias against people of color and women for a long time. We've said we're not that way any longer, but even without conscious bias, there is still unconscious bias against all types of people, and it's institutionalized. What can a tall, white, male CEO do to help the unconscious and institutional bias that exists? Asking for a friend, Tim Hellenthal.
Asking for a friend. Just like I said, like those personal conversations, man. Like, and and creating space. Like, so amongst your other friends that I don't know what your neighborhood looks like, Tim, but I'm assuming that they.
I think we know what Tim's neighborhood looks like.
But just continuing to have those conversations and be open and be anti-racist, and then also as a CEO, just making sure that the people under you are not perpetuating something, and not
So Tim, a few things, right? One, you probably, first of all, just being here and having these conversations means so much, and your whole organization sees the way you move, and they take their cues from that. Let's be honest. And so I think just being here and participating like this is leading by example. But drilling down into the recruiting practices, the hiring practices, the training, development, and promotional practices of your organization, I think is key to diversity, equity, and inclusion. Go back and check out the Love and Relo episode we did with John Fernandez from GMS. What was her name from Grable? She was so amazing. Valencia from Grable, and the gentleman Alan from Temple University, where we talk about diversity, equity, inclusion, and like actual tactics around it. I think that's huge, but it's about how do you get people into your organization that represent your client base and your population, and then how do you also make sure that they are promotable? Because I think part of the problem when we go to ERC, let's be honest, or AMSA or whatever, is we look around the room and it's all a bunch of old white guys, and not all, but skews real heavy. And it's because the moving company is all a bunch of white guys.
Yeah,
it's because they only promote a bunch of white guys.
And that's the thing. Like, because I've sat in those rooms and looked around like, wow, this is really skewed. It's really lopsided. And I'm not saying it should be 50-50. But the point is, like you said, like if you go back to these offices and warehouses, there's plenty of people of all different colors and nationalities. And they've been working there for 30 years. Like, where's the point? Where's the point where you go like, yo, you are really good at this?
Well, and I want to make sure that I clarify too, white males are not the devil. They're not the problem. I prefer to look at white males as being the future solution.
They are the solution. Like,
because and that's why we're having this conversation right now. Yeah. Because it is up to white people to make space in white spaces to have black conversations. Okay. And I think that we have got to, we can't rely on the Black Lives Matter movement or some black person from outside of our organization or our friend group or whatever to insert themselves into our lives and tell us what we need to know. We created this system and we need to be the ones to make space to fix it. That's my take on that.
Yeah.
Any thoughts?
No, yeah, I think that was great. I think you said that well. I mean, no, because I think that Yeah, like it's not. Yeah, it's not. Oh, all you guys are all the devil and this and that, and you're trying to hold us down. But just use your. I mean, people are so smart, you know. Like, and when it comes to certain things, they're just like they get so defensive of like oh well no like this. What about it's just hear the fact that someone is dealing with something, if if Martin Luther King was talking about this in the 60s, and then people are actually like talking about this still with like conviction and in stories that are not from just 50 60 years ago, there must be something happening. So instead of like asking all these questions to like kind of like to undermine the statements, just like what think about maybe these things are really happening. Let's maybe try some empathy a little bit, and then decide to hear, and then just take a look around before we talk. Like, wait a minute, maybe this is real. Maybe maybe there's people within my, maybe I'm not that way, but there's maybe people within my organization that are blocking people from getting in, or maybe they're only sending their friends in that are probably under whatever, and they still somehow get hired. Like I just think people need to, instead of asking questions to undermine like the moment, take a deep breath, relax. No one's gonna steal your job. But just think about where we are and be real, be honest, and I'm sure you'll come up with something amazing. Or not.
This is good. Mark says, Mr. CEO, interview everyone equally and choose the best guy for the job. I'm sure he doesn't mean man. If you have equal candidates, give them an aptitude test and pick the winner. Yes, Mark, totally.
Yeah.
But here's the other thing too. You have to make sure you're recruiting equally, right? Like if we just go and we just recruit at the one type of school to the one type of person and send certain people that just look one type of way, there's implicit biases that exist in our processes that we have to suss out as well. Anka talking about, we also have to acknowledge, I think Anka's point here is to acknowledge the fact that there are racist actions, doesn't necessarily make you a racist person, and we cannot be as defensive if we understand as we can change actions. Dano, it's about leveling the playing field like sports, the same distance from first base to second base for blacks, whites, and Martians from outer space. I think Martians have an advantage just because they have spaceships.
They're probably a little smarter.
Yeah, so Dano, I would actually, I think we should discriminate against Martians. I think we can all agree on that.
Yeah, I think I agree on that.
God forbid the Martians show up and put us all out of a job.
Can we talk about white privilege?
Okay, fine. Yeah, talk about white pros. We don't have much time. We're running over, and I got to prep for the. So I got to prep for the Detroit regional. Which, by the way, if y'all haven't seen, I'm so proud of this. I got this on Instagram. I bought one of those things off an ad. I got my Wu-Tang. So okay, fine. Yes, white privilege.
I don't care about your Wu-Tang.
Sorry.
No. So I was just getting ready for this thing, and then I'm like, what does white privilege mean to me, or like, what are some examples that I could maybe try to share that I feel like are like just blatant white privilege, and just. Like one of them is like, I'm not sure if you heard about it, was a sushi restaurant in Atlanta. A guy and his black guy and his wife were trying to come in, and the person stopped them from coming in because the guy had on gym shoes, right? And obviously
like sneakers, like
basketball sneakers, whatever they were, right? And obviously that's a rule. So I'm not saying that they should have let the guy in, but immediately he's standing there. It's a small restaurant. He looks like right at the bar, and this white lady's got her legs crossed. Like she's like twiddling her feet or whatever, and he's like, she's got on gym shoes right there, like she's got on sneakers. What about her? And they didn't want to hear it. They just pushed this guy out. Didn't ever kick the lady out. And later on, the owner of the thing said, like, I'm sorry, I should have kicked her out too, because she didn't follow whatever. But white privilege in that moment, and not saying that it's her fault. Like that's where white privilege gets like misconstrued, like as if it's as if this is her fault. The thing about white privilege in that moment is, when she came in, she got eye contact and maybe looked down at the thing and said, how many people? 2? Sweet, good, okay. You can sit at the bar? Okay, great. And then just no further inspection, right? You didn't have to qualify for a full body scan in whatever, right? But as soon as this guy walked in, he got the whole, oh no, not those, no shoes. And I'm not saying that person that did this is racist either. What I'm saying is that was a racist moment.
Well, first of all, it's a racist rule, in my opinion. You ever go to a club and they say no backwards hats, no hoodies, no jerseys, no. I mean, when you basically put every you know, an article of clothing. Like you're describing a person in your brain, and if you put a face on that person, I guarantee you that's a blackface. And so, to me, this no sneakers rule. I mean, yeah, I've been in clubs where you got to wear a jacket. I've been in clubs where you got to wear a tie. Right?
Yeah.
They're very few and far between.
They think they're keeping the riffraff out, and a lot of times that riffraff dog whistle is not somebody that looks like Ben Cross, you know. And then the other thing is, like, you know, in that whole situation was not her fault when she used her white privilege.
But that situation though was the benefit of the doubt, right? She got the benefit of the doubt that she probably wasn't wearing sneakers, escorted us directly to her table, whereas the other gentleman was getting inspected because he did not get the benefit of the doubt.
Right, exactly. And then, but then you got like Central Park Karen, you know, who actually knew her white privilege and said on a thing, she said, I'm going to call the police and I'm going to tell them that there's an African-American man threatening my life. Thing about it is, the guy has a camera videotaping her.
She didn't give a damn.
And she didn't care and literally got on the phone and started screaming that there's a black guy trying to get her. And he's in the middle of in broad daylight.
He's like, ma'am, I'm bird watching.
she's choking out her dog, and then, you know, they took her dog from her. Like she had to give it back because it was a rescue dog. But, you know, like that's the thing. Like, I'm not saying that everybody out here is using or weaponizing their white privilege, but you have to realize that there's, in this society, there is a thing, and it's not spoken about normally, but it's there. And if we don't admit it, then we'll be talking about this in 20, 30 years, straight up.
Well, you know, I think, and here's the thing that makes it really difficult too, is that, like, listen, you know, we're a free market economy. You give me an advantage, I'm going to use that advantage, right? Give me good hair, I'm going to use it, right? You give me white privilege, I'm going to use it, okay? I think that's, I mean, any advantage we have, I think we use it, right? That's just how we are. We're trying to get ahead. And I think that this is where white folks will say, yeah, I got white. Okay, fine. Let's assume I have white privilege. This is what they would say. I mean, you know, but so what? Like, I'm gonna use it like that. Like was the whole Trump's tax thing, right? It's like, yeah, I paid $750. That makes me smart. That's what he said, right? That makes me smart. You know, I'm using it. That makes me smart. So it's like, what do we do with that knowledge? Okay, there's white privilege exists. It's inherent in our skin. It means that we get the benefit of the doubt when we walk into a restaurant or a job interview or a bank to get a loan. But now what do we do with that information?
You asking me?
No, I'm asking the other black guy.
Oh,
yeah, I'm asking you, man.
I mean, I just like use it as a superpower, you know. And don't be a super villain, be a superhero, you know. Help, you know, use your privilege to get to a point to where you can help other people. Like, if just take the race out of it. If, you know, LeBron James is a great basketball player, and he used it to bring up his family, he used it to bring up his friends, he used it to help people that are less fortunate than him, you know.
He used his basketball privilege.
Used his basketball privilege and his talent, you know, that he just happened to be born and he was going to be how tall he was, you know, and it is what it is. And I'm not saying it's his fault and he should have it taken away. But if you have a benefit or whatever, and you know that there's people out there that are using your benefit against people that don't look like you and not at you, then call it, you know, like, say something. That's all, you know, like, just be honest, be open, and don't be like, and then just really quick with the Black Lives Matter thing, like, you know, that whole concept of like as soon as like a black person gets shot or whatever by the police, and the first thing that like people start asking questions like, well, why didn't he comply? Why didn't he comply?
Why was he more polite?
But what I don't understand, where like me as a black man complying means in your white head that I could you should probably be shot. You know, like,
there's only one way to handle this.
There's only one way. Is it, you know better, so you should have just complied. But when there's if it was like somebody else that you know that doesn't look like that, and you'd be like, no, like, you know, people that I know, like, if something happened with me, you'd be like, yo, I know Thomas and blah blah, and I'd speak, you know, whatever. You'd know that this was a mess up situation, right? But I just don't understand, like, where the questions come in. Like, if he pull a gun out, did he threaten the officer?
That goes back to white people are scared of black people. That is just a thing. That's what I'm saying. That is a thing. And white people say, oh, I don't see color or whatever. Okay,
but you cross the street though.
yes, white
I should
people are
cross
scared
the
of black
street.
people.
I
My
should cross
question
the
to
street and we
you,
all come.
my question to you is: are black people scared of white people? When you see a white person, are you inherently a little scared, a little skeptical, a little trepidation there?
No. Like, I mean, but yeah, no, not at all. But then, like, because I shouldn't be, and you shouldn't be scared of me either. Like, that's the thing. Like, I'm not scared because I just don't think that you'll, randomly do something to me. But if, like, the reason why white people are like scared of black folks is like because it's been perpetuated that, like, historically we're dangerous people or something, or aggressive. When in the history of, like I said before, there's never been a moment where it's just random black folks like just going after some white people. So why y'all white? No,
Well,
what? Why you scared?
John Brown. But here's the thing, no,
Like,
because
one thing.
but no, here's the thing though, because I think because to some degree, white people be like, I don't know, might have deserved it. I might deserve to get. I might deserve to get. Because if you want to go all the way back, because if you want to go all the way back to like post slavery, right? Like you want to go all the way back to like when there was options around how people treated one another, right? Post slavery or whatever.
Oh, pre.
Post. I'm saying after, like back, like when it was like, okay, how are we gonna treat each other now that we don't have this whole like
we had a chance.
like because I mean, imagine that first day, right? Like I mean, I think it's like a Dave Chappelle skit or something.
What are we doing here?
Right? Imagine the first day is like, okay, so like we're cool now, right? Like, and I feel like white people have been like, we're cool now, right? To black people for like 150 years since then.
Yeah,
hey, we're cool now, right?
and I think honestly, I think without like without all the terrible things that happened after 1865, like after if all these different things didn't happen, like Jim Crow and redlining and blah blah blah, I think that we'd be okay by now. But all those things did happen, and I just don't understand. Like, it is what it is, and I don't know if it's gonna get better.
Final thought, Tommy, because we do got to wrap here. Because we got to wrap. I got a Christmas party to go to. But what are your final thoughts, man?
Final thoughts would be just listen, and just try your best to listen with an open heart. And it's not a zero-sum game. I mean, it really isn't. And just be open, listen, and think before you use your smarts and your whatever to come up with something that like moves this conversation forward instead of backwards, and like fact checking something. Like if I tell you, I feel like I've been discriminated against, and explain it to you, what about, like, what did he do? Why didn't he comply? Just look at the fact that the man got killed. Like, if your son got killed and all he did was just refuse to let the guy put cuffs on him, it'd be outrage. Like, what is going on? Why would you do that? All he did was pull his hand from you. You didn't see a gun. You found it after, once you searched the car, but you didn't see it when you shot him. So just ask questions, and ask the right questions, and listen. That's all. Just listen, man. That's all we're saying.
And I think the final thought I would say is I think familiarity is missing. I think that we are a more segregated society now than we've been since Jim Crow. And it's interesting. Mark had said something about black people wanting to live together, and it's not that. It's when black people move to white neighborhoods, white people leave. That's what happens. It's not that, and so it becomes a black neighborhood. It's not that black people want to live together. Right. That's what happens. So and so I think there's this chasm, this polarization, and this lack of familiarity, and because there's this lack of familiarity and friendship and knowing black people who are your friends, who you like, who you trust, who you love, I think it's easy to be so estranged at some point to then start to fear people because you just don't know about them. I mean, we saw this with Muslim people in the United States after 9/11, right? People just didn't know, about the culture and about who they were. And so there was this demonization, and it just comes from a lack of familiarity, and so I think we always have to be looking to make friends who don't look like us, hire people who don't look like us, and start to become more inclusive in our own personal lives on a micro level. And then I think those little micros start to kind of overlap and create a macro change. And so I just urge us all to kind of form those relationships, love people, give people the benefit of the doubt, listen to people, even if you don't agree, consider their point of view, and just kind of really sleep on it. Tommy, thanks for being here, man. Appreciate you.
No problem, man. I think I might still have a job.
We'll figure it out. Hey, thanks everybody that hopped into the comments. This is great. It was way better because you guys participated. So thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for participating. We've got Elizabeth Soley, who's in the comments, on tomorrow, and then we have Yuki Watanabe from Gap on Friday. So thank you so much, everybody. Love y'all. Take care, and we'll see you tomorrow.